Welcome to the Pain-Free Movement. This channel is for those affected, frustrated or annoyed by musculoskeletal pain. Pain from injury, pain in joints or muscles, pain in backs and necks. This program has one simple goal: to help you sort out your problems. What is the single most important thing? I'm Max Kavanagh, a physiotherapist in Adelaide, South Australia. It's a world of confusing messages out there, and the single most important thing is your health. This program will address all aspects of healthy, pain-free movement, but with one goal: making it simple. The humble remote control. When I was a child, our family bought a remote control for our television. It was a box about this size, and it had a long cord that connected it to our big box TV. We had 4 stations we could watch, as the new channel 10 had just started. The remote box had only one button on it, and when you pushed it, it physically rotated the tuning dial in a clockwise direction. If you missed your station you wanted, you had to go all the way back around again. I remember how much my brother and I used to argue over whose turn it was to have the device. This was all to save us getting out of the chair to cover the 3 to 4 yards to change the channel. Well, automation has since become unbelievably sophisticated, and it generally has 2 effects. It decreases our need for physical action, and it saves us time. But what do we do with our saved time? Usually more sedentary activity. Now, it's not the fault of the remote control, but it's a great example of how our lifestyles have changed. But how could sitting more be an issue? Surely being more sedentary would put less strain on our bodies, right? Well, research over the last couple of decades has shown us just how wrong that is. Along with decreasing fitness levels we have discussed in recent episodes, sedentary lifestyles have contributed to worsening mobility, obesity and compounding health problems. So what do we need to know about sitting for long periods? What's the single most important thing we need to know about being more sedentary? Well, research over the last 20 years has been collated to make the guidelines put out in 2016 by Safe Work Australia. It summarises the dangers like this. Sedentary behaviour is common in Australia and is linked with an increased risk of premature mortality, chronic health disorders and detrimental work outcomes. Moreover, with the rapid advances in technology and the changes in the environment in the last few decades, the proportion of time spent sitting is likely increasing across the transport, leisure, domestic and occupational domains. And it goes on to say, the widespread exposure of Australian workers and growing advice from various authorities suggest it's time to consider the growing hazard of excessive occupational sitting. So yes, workplaces need to make changes, but that's not quite the message we need. It's the 24-hour attitude we need to change. I received this email a while ago following one of my articles on fitness and changes in our lifestyles. I think it gives us food for thought. Hi Max, our grandparents and previous generations never needed the gym, aerobics or sit-ups. They were lean and fit for the type of activities they did because their activities were so physical and they never gave them up. My grandmother in her 70s was still chopping wood, walking to the main street to shop, boiling sheets in the copper and doing all her own house cleaning, maintenance and gardening, mowing lawns, etc. My grandfather worked a very physical factory job into his early 70s. Now we have a lot more sedentary jobs, we drive the car everywhere, outsource many household functions, have TV and computers for leisure, and have a ton of labour-saving devices that take the place of the physical tasks people used to do. Humans were never designed to be as sedentary as we are now, hence the start of the physical fitness movement that set out to replace the habitual physical demands of normal life previously, which people did pretty much from the cradle to the grave. Looks like we need to get back some of the habits our grandparents had. They were fit for the lives they led because they were kept active. They were doing the things they wanted and needed to do, and they just never stopped doing it. So, firstly, are we actually sitting for greater periods than we used to, or is it just a perception? A study by and Potkin in 2012 conducted in various countries estimated the change in behaviour in occupational, leisure, travel and household domains using historical data on time allocation, occupational distribution and energy expenditure by activity. In the US, sedentary behaviour increased from 26.4 hours per week in 1965 to 37.7 hours in 2009. That's a 43% increase. In the UK, sedentary behaviour increased from 28.4 hours per week in 1961 to 41.7 hours per week in 2005. 47% more in just 4 decades. Importantly, this study was focused on leisure time sedentary behaviour, so in actual fact it's likely to be a gross underestimate of our overall exposure. Several reasons for this change in sedentary behaviour were discussed by the authors, including a change in workforce, increase in vehicle miles travelled, and an increase in information technology use with computer and TV. And we all know how these trends have continued since this study was done. Okay, if we accept that modern society has become increasingly sedentary over the last few decades, what effect does that have? What are the actual effects of sitting for greater periods? Safe Work Australia in their 2016 guidelines summarise it like this. Sedentary behaviour has been shown to be detrimentally associated with all-cause mortality, cardiometabolic outcomes including cardiovascular disease, diabetes and obesity, some cancers, mental ill health and health-related quality of life. Let alone the musculoskeletal effects we've discussed already regarding posture and healing. Of course, we are regularly informed from many sources about needing to be fitter. We're directed by media and influencers to lots of physical activity options. We're told about the health benefits of doing things like counting 10,000 steps a day, interval training, or 90 minutes of cardiovascular exercise. This can tend to give us the impression that we can make up for our sitting lifestyle by fitting in an aerobics class or going for a jog or doing a workout a few times a week. Well, I am doing physical activity, I hear many of you say, and that's great if you are, and something you should try to build some more aerobic activity in each day. Something that gets your heart rate up and makes you huff and puff a bit. Maybe bike riding, swimming, walking uphill, playing sport or a gym workout. This will maintain your cardiovascular fitness and make sure all your body systems keep working efficiently. But here's the kicker. The negative effects of prolonged sitting are not undone by adding these physical activity sessions. The majority of these associations remain even after allowing for the impact of physical inactivity, thereby underlying that sedentary behaviour and our physical inactivity need to be considered as separate health hazards. So you can be active with a jog or workout in your day, but if you're sitting for the rest of the day, the detrimental effects add up. Back in episode 3, we talked about summation. Check it out if you haven't already. Remember the loads on our bodies build up from sitting, and then the sudden load caused by vigorous activity can lead to injuries, and sadly, it just doesn't really make up for the long hours of sitting. We need to find ways to minimise the total sitting hours in our day, and make sure you're in the habit of breaking up sitting periods with frequent movement, such as standing, stretching, walking around. While research still needs to find the actual systemic mechanisms that are causing harm, it does seem the damage from too much sitting is potentially due to the decrease in muscle activity and energy expended, as well as the postural loads and insufficient movement to help our blood flow and other mechanisms. And how much sitting is too much? Well, it is suggested that more than 7 hours overall sedentary behaviour per day and sitting bouts of more than 20 to 30 minutes are likely to be detrimental to our health. So we need to change. Your task this week is to plan ways to change the amount of sedentary time you have in your day. Are you travelling distances to work or for caring duties or visiting? Are you sitting at the computer for long periods, engrossed by TV series on the couch? Look at each of these individually and write down ways you can address the time you're sitting. Can you walk part of the way to work? Are you breaking up trips with shopping? Can you set a timer to prompt you to get up? Set reminders to move on your Fitbit or your phone. How can you move more? Write it down. Can you do some pelvic tilting at the traffic lights? Maybe you could ride and not drive. Spend some time to work out how you can bring motion into your day. Discuss it with your loved ones. What ideas can they come up with? Jot down a plan of changes you can start and add them in. Start with a few and try them out. Your body will thank you. So, with all I've discussed, What is the most important thing you need to know about sitting for long periods? What is the single most important thing we need to know about our sedentary lifestyles? It's the 24-hour clock that is most important. It's not just being fitter that matters for your health, it's what we do over the whole day that adds up. We need to bring more movement into our day. A sedentary life means you're in strife. Movement for life. And next time we'll discuss what happens to us all, aging, because it's blamed for so many problems we suffer. You'll be surprised to hear the facts. If you've found this video helpful, please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Max Kavanagh, wishing you good health and pain-free movement, and I'll see you next week.